Okay, get my gavel up, make it official. And good evening. I'm going to go ahead and call this session of the City of Tumwater Hearing Examiner to order. For the record, today is May 31st, 2023 at 7 p.m. We have one item on the agenda this evening, and this is numbers TUM 221544 and TUM 230243, involving a request for approval of a conditional use permit or CUP, as well as site plan review to allow for the construction of an approximately 1,900 square foot two-room, I believe, modular building with associated infrastructure to serve apparently 18 to 21-year-old life skills students on the existing 19 and a half acre property that the Tumwater School District Admin Services and Michael T. Simmons Elementary School currently are on, and this is at 621 Linwood Avenue Southwest in the city of Tumwater. My name is Andrew Reeves, and I am a hearing examiner that the city has selected to hold certain hearings like this one. And today it will be my role to collect evidence in the form of exhibits and testimony to determine whether this proposal is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan, zoning ordinances, critical areas ordinances, and the specific requirements for approval of a conditional use permit, and additionally site plan review, which normally is an administrative process, but consolidated tonight, but to ensure that those requirements have been met. And to that end, I received several exhibits in advance of tonight that I had an opportunity to review. The number I currently have is 17 or 17. And this includes a staff report prepared by city staff, the various plans themselves that were submitted in advance of the hearing, maps and things to help us sort of orient and see what's happening and where we are in terms of zoning and the comprehensive plan and the vicinity, and then the actual maps and plans themselves, information on the notice that was provided in relation to the application, as well as today's hearing, information on the environmental review that occurred under our state's Environmental Policy Act, or SEPA, including the determination of non-significance, or DNS, that was issued by the city. That was ultimately not appealed, as I'm sure staff will explain. The application and narrative itself, there was, I think, 3 comments ultimately, none that expressed any major concern about the proposal, but those were included in the record. And then information of a technical nature, including information about how drainage would be addressed on site, geotechnical aspects of the proposal, potential traffic information on, the availability of utilities, and then our Mazama pocket gopher determination letter, sometimes of vital importance in locations such as Tumwater. So 17 again is the number I currently have, and if anyone has additional exhibits they'd like admitted into the record, let me know when it's your opportunity to testify, and I'll go ahead and address admitting additional exhibits at that time. Speaking of testimony, our testimony tonight will be under oath or affirmation. That's because we're my decision to be appealed under our state's Land Use Petition Act, or LUPA. The recording of tonight's hearing, as well as the admitted exhibits and my decision, would serve as the foundation for any such appeal. I sometimes ask questions of those that are testifying. I'm not trying to trip anyone up. I'm just trying to make sure I have a thorough understanding of the proposal, so that within a couple weeks of the record closing, I'm able to produce a decision that is hopefully clear and legally defensible. Finally, the order that we typically follow, and I believe we'll follow this evening, is first I'll swear in city staff, who will give sort of an overview of the review process and the review that led us to tonight's hearing, and any unique aspects of the proposal or thoughts they think I should be aware of will be shared. After that, we'll turn to our applicant team, as it were, to see if they have any additional information they feel that myself and members of the public should be aware of in advance of my making a decision on the proposal. Then if there are members of the public interested in testifying, they will have that opportunity. Currently, I don't believe we have any members of the public that have joined us. We are in a hybrid format, and I do see an attendee, but I think it is a member of the press, so not someone I intend to call on specifically. But if anyone does end up joining, they would have an opportunity to testify And then following public testimony, I'll turn back to the applicant and city staff to respond to any such testimony. So that's the order we're going to follow. And with that, I think we can go ahead and get started, and I'll get to our planning person sworn in. So Alex Baruch, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in testimony you give here today?
I do.
And if you could just state and spell your name clearly for the record.
Yes, it's Alex Baruch, A-L-E-X, last name B-A-R-U-C-H. I'm a planner with the city of Tumwater.
Great, thank you so much for being here. And did my sort of rundown of the 17 exhibits, did that track with what staff was hoping I'd look at in advance of tonight's hearing?
Yes, and you did a thorough explanation. It's almost like you looked at the first 3 paragraphs of my opening remarks. So
in fact, I read the whole record closely in addition to your first 3 paragraphs, but it sounds like I stole your thunder. But given the limited amount of those that have signed on, I'm not saying this is rubber stamped by any means. It certainly is a review process that all of us take seriously, and ultimately the burden is not on you, it's on the applicants to convince me of a permit and whether a permit should be approved. But that said, feel free to kind of hone in on the specific criteria or unique aspects if you'd like.
yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Mr. Examiner. Before you this evening is a conditional use permit for a proposed school expansion to construct an approximately 1,900 square foot modular building to serve 18 to 21-year-old life skills students. Currently, this program is operating out of the Newmarket Skills Center south of City Hall. The proposed modular building would allow the program to double from 8 students to 16 and from 3 staff to 5. The property is located at 621 Linwood Avenue Southwest and is in the single family medium density and Greenbelt zone districts. Currently, the site includes Michael T. Simmons Elementary School and Tumwater School District Administrative Building with fields and infrastructure associated with those uses. The property is mostly flat and does include a portion of Barnes Lake. The modular building is proposed outside the critical area associated with Barnes Lake in an open field adjacent to the administration building. Surrounding properties are zoned single-family medium density, multifamily medium density, and Greenbelt. The Aquifer Protection Overlay District also applies to this property. It restricts hazardous uses to protect aquifer recharge areas. Schools are not a restricted land use in the Aquifer Protection Overlay. Proposed improvements are shown on the preliminary site development grading plan and include reconfiguring parking spaces for a bus drop-off pickup area, water and sewer connections, and minor grading. All utilities on site will be underground pursuant to the Tumwater Municipal Code. Staff reviewed the application materials and provided findings in the staff report that the project is consistent with the Tumwater Comprehensive Plan, Parks and Recreation Plan, and Transportation Plan, as well as the Thurston Regional Trails Plan and Sustainable Development Plan. The City of Tumwater Transportation Manager provided a concurrency ruling, which stated that there are not any additional transportation impacts anticipated with this proposal, and impact fees would be paid at the building permit issuance. Additionally, staff reviewed a SEPA environmental checklist and other information submitted by the applicant and issued a notice of application with optional determination of non-significance on March 29th, 2023. The DNS was issued on May 4th, 2023, and no appeals of the SEPA threshold determination were filed during that time. Lastly, the public hearing notice was sent out on May 19th. Notices were mailed to property owners within 300 feet of the subject property and various agencies, posted on site and published in the Olympian. During the notice of application with optional DNS comment period, a surrounding property owner inquired about the timing of the official SEPA determination. Staff stated that the determination would be sent out after the comment period had concluded, and staff provided the determination to the community member at that time. Comment from the Squaxin Island tribe and Nisqually Indian tribe stated that there were no cultural resource concerns with this project. Looking back at past proposals for development on this property, a conditional use permit was approved with conditions for the school district administrative building on March 17th, 2008. This project would not conflict with the conditions associated with that approval and meets the conditional use permit minimum conditions of 25-foot setbacks around the perimeter of the property. With this information, staff finds that the school expansion as conditioned conforms to the comprehensive plan, Tumwater Municipal Code, planning standards, development standards, and policies of the city of Tumwater. Staff finds that adequate provisions have been made for public health, safety, and general welfare, and that the public use and interest will be served by the proposed school expansion on this property. Staff recommends approval of the conditional use permit with attached conditions, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have at this time.
Sure, thank you. I guess as a preliminary matter, in terms of SEPA, traditionally, anything sort of 4,000 square feet or less is for schools or offices is exempt. But maybe out of an abundance of caution or just because, the process was comparable, staff ultimately determined go through the SEPA process rather than exemption, or I'm just curious if there was any particular reason for the
I believe the
height.
code, yeah, I believe the Tumwater Municipal Code requires when a hearing examiner approval is required, that SEPA is also a part of that process.
Oh, no matter what. I guess I didn't realize that. So, thank you. And then again, in terms of, so this is 1,900 square feet on what ultimately is a 19.5 acre site, correct?
That's correct.
And the 19.5 acre site received a CUP 20 or so years ago, or I missed the date there. It's on my
2008.
Okay, so 15 or so years ago. So in terms of the need to go through the process tonight, it's not so much that it's a new use. I mean, it's the expansion of an existing. Is that kind of what led us to the hearing? Is that right?
That's correct. School expansions are a standalone conditional use permit that is required in the single family medium zone district. So that's why we need to go through that process.
Sure, and I guess that was my next question was but the comp plan designation for the property is as institutional or schools, right?
Yes, that's correct. The future land use on the property is institution, school use for a portion of it, and recreation open space for the Barnes Lake portion.
Right, so where the development would occur is on the public institutional parks open space portion, but the zoning code never was sort of amended since in the last 15 years to kind of reflect what
That's correct.
On this property. Is that an accurate way of thinking about it?
Yes, I believe a lot of the different school properties on the future land use map are designated as a public use type of zone in the future land use map, but in the current zoning district, they are many times residential from historic zoning.
Sure. Okay. Which is why we're here with the conditional use permit, essentially. So,
correct.
Okay. And then my only other, well, two more questions for you. The first was I kind of mentioned it at the outset, but the site plan review process traditionally is an administrative process. But are there sort of specific requirements or a specific section of the code I should look to as I'm thinking about if I'm the one in charge of approving the site plan, as opposed to traditionally it would be, planning staff? What are where do I look to ensure that the site plan review process has occurred? Or can you confidently testify that staff has reviewed this such that the site plan, meets all the requirements of the code?
Yeah, so I think there are two different elements there. The first, the reason why I think the school would like to have them combined from a process perspective would be to expedite the approval process so they can start their construction, as they would like to have this up and running for the upcoming school year. And this is a great opportunity during the summer to have the construction take place. The second component would be staff has done a preliminary and formal site plan review we have put together our formal site plan review letter, which are part of the conditions for this proposal. So we feel that we've adequately addressed a lot of those components. And then separately, the applicant has gone ahead and provided site development grading, submittal and building permit submittal already to kind of jump ahead of the process and have the reviews occur concurrently, so they can be ready to construct as soon as the decision has been made. So we have a certain level of comfort already with the proposal and the way that it's proposed, as it's currently laid out.
Sure. So essentially exhibit 17 in the record, dated March 10, 2023. So fairly recent is, the Development Review Committee, their formal site plan letter that has been issued. And so essentially that would be, were this not consolidated, that would kind of be what that approval would look like. But because it is consolidated, I understand why that occurs, but that would be kind of the guide for me to make sure, look at it closely. And if everything looks kosher to me, then staff's confident. The review committee has looked at this closely, all those details that often are a level of review I don't think about sometimes in terms of the meta level I'm often involved in, but that would be the guide. Is that an accurate way of thinking about it?
That's correct.
Excellent. And then final question for staff is the simple one I try to always ask, but I just want to ensure there haven't been any significant changes to the comprehensive plan or zoning since this application was being complete that would have a major impact for purposes of vesting or anything to that extent.
No.
Okay. Were there any other members of staff the city intended to call upon, or can we move to our applicant at this point?
I believe we can move to the applicant.
Great. Okay. And I know we've got a couple folks. Mel Murray, are you going to go first? I saw you unmuted. I know one's a rep, one's an applicant. I'm happy to go with either.
I'll go first.
All right. We'll get Mel Murray sworn in. Do you
Okay.
swear or affirm to tell the truth in the testimony you give here today?
I do.
And if you could just clearly state and spell your name and explain who you are.
I'm Mel Murray, MEL MURRAY, the Director of Facilities for Tumwater School District.
Okay, thank you so much. And so this is your opportunity to clarify anything or provide any additional information.
I realize that one thing we need to clarify is exactly what LINKS means. It's the learning independence by networking community and schools.
Thank you.
And it's a program, a special ed program for 18 to 21-year-olds who generally are on an IEP, which is an individual education plan, and they have not yet received their high school diploma. And this gives them an opportunity to transition from the high school world into the community and work world. And so
I'm sure it's in the record somewhere, but one more time, can you slowly, so learning independence and network.
Learning independence by networking community and school.
Networking community and school. Excellent. Okay, thank you. And I fully grasped and understood the rest of it. I have a twin brother that is a high school educator and works in programs like this in California. So, but this acronym I wasn't 100% aware of. So, thank you for clarifying that. And
it's technically a transition program is what OSPI, the state will classify it as. So,
excellent.
And the site has been the site of an elementary school since 1930s, and there was a building on this small field before we built the district office building here. We were in an old classroom building on the site that had been built in 1951 and then was torn down as part of that project. So it's just been a small youth soccer field, and that's been the use of the field and an alternative play area for other kids. So
So not a pristine part of the 19.5 acre site, whereas some of it, Barnes Lake, part of it is
Right,
undeveloped and will
Right.
hopefully a lot of it remain so. I think that is the intent, but this is sort of, as
Right.
needs change for the school system and the institutions is.
right. And if you look at the soils report, you'll see there are still large chunks of concrete underground, under the topsoil here, so.
There you go. Excellent. Well, thank you for clarifying that. I don't have specific questions as, this is straightforward relative to quite a few things I deal with, but I just wanted to make sure and your representative can also speak to it, but I assume you were able to review the staff report and the recommended
Yes.
conditions, as well as exhibit 17. Me and Mr. Baruch just talked about the site plan review, and everything makes sense and no major concerns or need for clarification.
Right, nothing unusual.
Okay, great. Anything further you wanted to convey?
No, thank you.
All right, thank you for being here. With that, we'll turn finally to Ross Jarvis on technical aspects, I suppose. So, Mr. Jarvis, do you swear or affirm to tell the truth in testimony you give here tonight?
I do.
And if you could just state and then spell your name for us.
Ross Jarvis, ROSS, Jarvis, JARVIS,
And your role related to this proposal.
civil engineer,
Sure. And you're with whom?
LLDC.
Yep. May have heard the name before.
Yeah.
So thank you for being here. In other circumstances, I may grill you with lots of stormwater details, etc. In this case, I do not have, I couldn't even think of a single question that I would ask, but please, if there's anything you think should be clarified, take the opportunity and do so.
No, I don't. I just, like you said, I think it's pretty straightforward. I think the project meets all the city standards. It's going to have minimal to no impacts to the neighboring property owners, and we think this project's a good fit for this location.
Okay. And same question as I had for Mr. Murray. No, you've seen the staff report and the recommended conditions, as well as, again, exhibit 17, which had a little more detail on site plan. No concerns or
No concerns. No.
excellent. Okay, well, I feel like it's still nice out, and we're at the middle of winter. I may drill down and ask non-project specific details about the bigger picture of stormwater manuals and engineering, but I'm not going to do that to you, especially because this is one of the more straightforward projects I've seen in a while. So, Mr. Jarvis, I thank you for being here. I will go back to, well, first off, just to be clear, it does not appear anyone has joined us again, other than a member, it looks like, of the press. But just to be clear, no one in the room there, Tammy Merriman, that off screen or anything. No, all by herself. Okay. And then back to Alex Baruch. Ms. Baruch, anything final or further on behalf of city staff before we conclude tonight's hearing?
No additional remarks.
Okay, I haven't been able to say this in the city of Tumwater, I feel like, in several months, but I can confidently say, based on my review of the record and what I heard tonight, that I intend on approving this proposal for a conditional use permit and site plan review with the conditions that have been recommended, subject to, wordsmithing if I deem it necessary. But essentially, everything seems to be very clear and straightforward. And my intent is to produce a decision here in the next couple of weeks so that the district can move forward with this project to get this important program, the Links program, up and running and in place, for the fall or whenever the movement will occur. So with that, we can conclude tonight's hearing. I thank everyone for taking the time to be here, and I think folks will still be able to enjoy a tiny bit of sunshine in baseball. And with that, we'll conclude tonight's hearing. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.